Okay, if I could encourage those leaving the chamber and indeed the public gallery to do so as quickly and as quietly as possible as we move on to the next item of business, which is the members' business debate on motion 19074 in the name of Claire Adamson on Pancreatic Cancer Awareness Month and World Pancreatic Cancer Day 2025. The debate will be concluded without any questions being put. I invite members wishing to participate to press the request to speak buttons. I call on Claire Adamson to open the debate. Around 7 minutes. Ms Adamson.
Thank you very much, Presiding Officer. Can I thank everyone who supported the motion recognising Pancreatic Cancer Awareness Month and Pancreatic Cancer Day, which is today for 2025, and also all of the members who took part in the photo call a few weeks ago in the Garden Lobby. We hopefully have our members from Pancreatic Cancer UK and Pancreatic Cancer Action with us today on this important occasion. And while this might be the last pancreatic cancer debate in this session of the Parliament, I trust it will not be the last in the Parliament, having established this as one of the important regular moments where we look at the impact of this incredibly devastating cancer. Pancreatic cancer is the deadliest common cancer, and each year just under 900 people in Scotland are diagnosed. And the statistics remain stark. Half of those diagnosed die within 3 months. 8 in 10 are diagnosed too late for life-saving treatment, and only 7 in every 100 survive beyond 5 years. And I know this has touched members of the current Parliament since we last had this debate, as it has for all of us over the years. On World Pancreatic Day, it is crucial that we remember those numbers. Families that will never be the same and lives that are cut painfully short. The central problem we face is one of late detection. Symptoms of pancreatic cancer are vague, back pain, indigestion, weight loss, jaundice, and these things are often viewed as non-urgent in primary care settings. 9 in 10 patients visit their GP multiple times before being diagnosed. However, by that time, the cancer is often advanced too far for surgery or other life-saving treatments. We know that progress is possible, and we must have better outcomes. Encouragingly, research into pancreatic cancer and early detection is showing progress and has the potential to shift the dial towards earlier diagnosis in the next few years. And this is through funding from organisations like Pancreatic Cancer UK and Pancreatic Cancer Action, who fund research and are working to help doctors in primary care detect the disease earlier. One such project is the VAPOR study led by Professor George Hanna at Imperial College London. His team is developing a breath test for use in GP surgeries to rapidly identify patients with pancreatic cancer. Early results indicate that the test accurately detects the disease at its earliest stages. The study will now advance to the second phase in the new year, which will see around 40 hospitals across the UK, including here in Scotland, take part in a national trial. And if successful, this simple test could transform the way people are referred for assessment, allowing the disease to be caught at a stage where treatment is still possible. We are also seeing pioneering work from researchers across Scotland. At the University of Glasgow, Professor Nigel Jamieson is leading a project to identify which pancreatic cysts are most likely to turn cancerous. This could allow early intervention for those most at risk. Other UK studies are developing blood and urine tests and tools to identify new onset diabetes that can signal the earliest stages of pancreatic cancer. Each of these projects is a vital step towards earlier diagnosis and ultimately towards saving life. However, research alone is not enough. It receives just 3% of the UK's total cancer research funding, despite being on track to become the 4th leading cause of cancer in the coming years, overtaking breast cancer. That imbalance and delaying progress is costing lives, and we urgently need a national commitment across the UK to achieve substantial improvements in survival for cancers with the poorest outcomes, including pancreatic, brain, liver, lung, oesophageal and stomach. And this must be achieved by the end of the decade. We wait for progress that new research will undoubtedly bring, but we must not lose sight of the patients facing cancer right now. So, as I spoke in last year's members' debate, another 900 people in Scotland will have been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and many of them will be subject to delays and variation in care. I've been working closely with both charities and representatives with the Cabinet Secretary to ensure that the new national HPV pathway covers referral, diagnosis and treatment, and it's vital to ensure that no patient slips through the cracks. As part of this, we understand the Centre for Sustainable Delivery will commence work on an optimal diagnostic pathway for HPV cancers, which is expected to be completed by 2026. I welcome the excellent opportunity to strengthen the diagnosis capacity across health services and to ensure that patients are referred for investigation as quickly and as early as possible. I'm conscious of time, Presiding Officer, but I do say that I think there will be an opportunity for members to go out and visit the PanCan van for Pancreatic Cancer Action outside. And I commend Tunnock's, a Scottish icon that I'm sure is all on our thoughts, given Scotland's wonderful performance the other night. That Scottish icon every year provides tea cakes with an iconic purple covering, a rare opportunity to see that in action. And I would urge all of the members, if they can, to go out and take the opportunity to support the incredible work of both Pancreatic Cancer Action and Pancreatic Cancer UK in raising awareness of this disease. Thank you, Presiding Officer.
Thank you, Ms Adamson. I can confirm the Tunnock's wafers on the Loganair flights are suitably badged. We now move to the open debate. I call first Miles Briggs to be followed by Jamie Hepburn.
Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer. And can I start by thanking Claire Adamson for securing this debate once again this year. I sometimes wonder where a year goes between these debates, quite frankly, but it is an important one and one which has become an annual debate for our Parliament, and I certainly hope that continues to be the case in the next session of Parliament as well. And as the co-convener of the cross-party group on cancer, I'd also like to thank the many campaigners who have now joined us in the public gallery. Not just thank them for joining us today, but thank them for their advocacy on this issue over so many years. They, like so many of us, have had friends, family members devastated by pancreatic cancer. And I know that's what drives their desire to see not only life-saving but life-improving healthcare for all those affected by this disease. And can I also put on record my thanks to Pancreatic Cancer Action and Less Survivable Cancer Task Force Scotland for their hard work and also the briefings which they've provided ahead of today's debate, because today is World Pancreatic Cancer Day 2025, and as many of us will be aware, pancreatic cancer is one of the 6 less survivable cancers where action is still greatly needed to improve outcomes. Less survivable cancers, those of the brain, liver, lung, stomach, esophagus and pancreas, account for around a quarter of all cancer diagnoses in Scotland, affecting over 9,000 people each year. And this is not an insignificant number, but in spite of this, the prognosis for those diagnoses really haven't made the improvements we want to see, with the average 5-year survival rates for those cancers still sitting at just 16%. Pancreatic cancer has the lowest survival rate of all cancers, with just 7% of all patients surviving for 5 years or longer. And in 2010, when Pancreatic Cancer Action was founded, this sat at just 3%. So progress has been made, but that progress is not fast enough. Every single one of us in this Parliament today wants to see that rate improve, and that's why we're here and so many of us speak in this debate annually. And input and support from those with lived experience is crucial to that, to better understand pancreatic cancer. And as we know, in this fast-developing, devastating cancer, that needs to be caught early. Last week, I co-chaired the Scottish Cancer Conference at Strathclyde University alongside Jackie Bailey, and it was interesting having a number of conversations with people around pancreatic cancer on that day. And I think there is real support now to make sure that we do see the Scottish Government support the national HPV pathway. And that national approach, I think, really aligns closely with the new Cancer Action Plan for 23 to 26. And that commitment to invest in improving that pathway for less survivable cancers, particularly pancreatic cancer, is really important. And I think we'll see that turnaround, hopefully, in survivable cancers as well. The national model will ensure that uniformed care across all regions of our country, helping to reduce health inequalities and improve outcomes across Scotland. And so I think this is hopefully a real step forward, and it's hoped that that pathway will address Scotland's record long cancer waiting times as well, which I think we need to also keep that focus on. I thus urge ministers to support the implementation of that pathway in order to make sure that we do see genuine progress around care targets. That call for action has been coming for some time from campaigners, and I hope that will very much be down to their hard work if we do see that progress. Scotland has done a huge amount to ensure progress in tackling this disease, and we can't forget that. And I think we need to celebrate where outcomes for patients are not where we want them to be, but we have made progress as a country. And so to end on a point of hope, I think, Deputy Presiding Officer, I often come into contact with our old colleague John Scott, MSP, or former MSP, who last weekend I met on Saturday in Stranraer. He was bouncing around my colleague's constituency delivering leaflets, and he is really where I would hope we can all pray and hope we will see where cancer is detected early, that is treated, and someone goes on to have good life expectancy and outcomes. And John's, for me, that example of where we should be. So on World Pancreatic Cancer, let us honour those we have lost, thank those who are still fighting, and pledge to do the very best we can to ensure a brighter future, that someone diagnosed with pancreatic cancer will seek treatment and be able to tackle their cancer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Briggs. And I call Jamie Hepburn to be followed by Carol Mochen. Around 4 minutes, Mr Hepburn.
Thank you very much, President Officer. Can I begin by saying I'm very grateful to Claire Adamson for bringing forward this debate, so I thank her for doing so. Can I say to Miles Briggs, I'm delighted to hear the update in relation to John Scott. He is someone that those of us had the pleasure of serving in this Parliament. I think, despite political differences, we all have enormous affection for. So through him, I pass on my best wishes. I also want to thank the charity survivors and family members for their work, not just during Pancreatic Cancer Awareness Month, of course, but year-round in terms of keeping the spotlight on this condition. President Officer, I was keen to speak today at the request of a number of constituents who have been in contact with me asking that I do so, as it enables me to mention their experience and to hopefully set on the record their voice being able to be heard as part of today's debate. One constituent told me of losing her father to pancreatic cancer last year, with the diagnosis coming, as it often does, too late, giving him no chance in the devastation this understandably caused her and her family. I was able to correspond with the Cabinet Secretary for Health on that case, to raise some of the issues involved around the family's experience of engaging with the NHS for his treatment. I was grateful for the response he sent me. Another person spoke of losing her brother, and another wrote to me to say that they themselves have sadly been diagnosed, and wrote of the obvious impact that has had on them. I send each of them my best wishes today and say it's for them that I speak in this debate today. For too many people, including too many of my constituents, this is a deeply personal debate on a disease that dramatically impacts their lives in a very sudden way. I'm sure we will be united, and we've already heard to push for more awareness, more research and more early diagnosis and treatment for this condition. The reality, of course, is that this is a cancer that remains one of the less survivable cancers. It is a tough disease to diagnose, and it is a tough disease to treat. Too many people are only diagnosed once symptoms have become severe, and by that stage treatment options can be limited. The challenge, of course, for any health service is that a delay in diagnosis or treatment can prove fatal. However, these challenges also point us, I believe, in the direction of where we can make a difference as policymakers by improving early detection. I welcome the Scottish Government's Detect Cancer Early programme, taking that whole systems approach to early detection, encompassing primary care, diagnostics, public education, data, innovation and screening. And the new rapid cancer diagnostic services, including one in the NHS Lanarkshire area that my constituency, indeed Ms Adamson's constituency, is located in, are a further addition to how cancer can be diagnosed. Claire Adamson's motion rightly points out the need for further research on pancreatic cancer, as at the moment it only receives around 3% of the UK cancer research budget. Not only should we be looking at whatever means that are at our disposal and open to us to increase this percentage, and indeed the overall spending in cancer research, but collectively we need to ensure that our research institutions are world-class, excellent research institutions that are able to attract the fullest range of international research funding, and that international researchers know they will be welcome to come here to contribute to that effort. So I very much welcome what I think will be a very consensual debate, broad consensus that we have on these matters for early diagnosis, for greater research, for the steps that the government are taking to improve pathways for patients who may need treatment. And I look forward to hearing from the Minister as to what more has been done to improve outcomes for patients with pancreatic cancer in Scotland. And can I conclude, President Officer, by thanking my constituents who took the time to make contact with me, with their experience, whether as a patient themselves or as somebody's loved one ahead of today's debate. It's not easy, of course, to talk about either your own health, ill health, or the loss of the loved one. And I'm very grateful to them for sharing their experiences with me.
Thank you, Mr Hepburn, and can I very much echo your comments in relation to John Scott. I now call Carol Mockin to be followed by Marie McNair. Around 4 minutes, Ms Mockin.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. I too thank Claire Adamson for bringing this debate to the Chamber and for all the work she's done over this session in this area. I'm glad that Parliament is once again marking Pancreatic Cancer Awareness Month and highlighting the importance of greater awareness and timely diagnosis. I really welcome the opportunity to contribute. I think I have contributed to each of the debates. I think it is so important to take a moment and reflect on the scale of this illness and the profound impact it has on so many families, as others have said. Others have mentioned the statistics, so I won't go back over them again, but I just want to say that we must always remember that catching the cancer early dramatically improves the chances of treatment and recovery. But we do know from others have said this, but we know from the statistics that 8 in 10 people are diagnosed at a late stage, which means they are often diagnosed too late for treatment, and that is just a tragedy. Over 50% are diagnosed in emergency settings like accident and emergency, despite the vast majority of patients visiting their GP multiple times before being diagnosed. So for patients, recognising the symptoms of pancreatic cancer represents a first step in diagnosis, especially in the absence of the early detection tests that others have mentioned. Symptoms can be vague, which can make the cancer really difficult to spot, but I think the public awareness campaigns run by charities and organisations to support this early detection are so crucial. So I, like others, thank the various organisations who do this work and who have contacted me ahead of today's debate for the work that they do and for all the helpful briefings, which really show the scale of the problem and the challenge ahead, but gives us something to work towards. Others have mentioned the importance of the research and the challenges and barriers around this, and the very important tests that have been raised before. We need all of this work to come together so that we can improve the rates of survival from this. But I did notice that in the last 15 years, the 5-year survival rate has increased from 3% to 7%, and so it shows us just what we can do if we work together. It hasn't moved at pace, but by working together with other nations, I think we can make a difference. Before I close in my speech today, as I often do, would like to take a moment to reflect on health inequalities and their impact on outcomes across our constituents. We know that the detection of cancer in our more deprived communities can be very, very difficult. People interact with health services in a very different way, and we have a responsibility to raise that time and again. The latest Public Health Scotland data revealed that the incidence of all cancers was 24% greater in the most deprived areas compared with the least deprived areas, and often that is around that early detection and how we make sure that we support people to get the right advice at the right time. In previous debates, I've warned about the impact of health inequalities in some of our most vulnerable communities, and as I have before, I always call for urgent action in this area. We need to do more to empower our communities to speak up with healthcare professionals, to speak up about what their needs are when they need help, and ensure that there is a clear plan that is understandable to them put in place to address any inequalities that people might face. So again, I want to just thank everybody for contributing to the debate, and to the guests in the gallery. Thank you very much, Presiding Officer.
Thank you, Ms Mochan. And I call on Marie McNair to be followed by Finlay Carson. Around 4 minutes, Ms McNair.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. I'm grateful to my colleague Claire Addison for bringing this important debate to the Chamber for Pancreatic Cancer Awareness Month, with today marking World Pancreatic Cancer Day. Since being elected in 2021, I have spoken in every debate on this issue brought to the Chamber by my colleagues Claire Adamson and Willie Coffey. It is an issue I will always speak up on. I extend my sincere thanks to the amazing charities such as Pancreatic Cancer Action, Pancreatic Cancer UK and the Less Survivable Cancer Task Force, and to other dedicated organisations. And can I welcome you all here today. You are at the forefront of raising awareness and fighting for better outcomes for those with pancreatic cancer. Thank you. Unfortunately, pancreatic cancer is the deadliest common cancer and often referred to as a silent killer, as its early symptoms are difficult to spot. And as mentioned, around 900 people in Scotland are diagnosed with pancreatic cancer each year, with most patients diagnosed too late for effective treatments. Sadly, half the people diagnosed with this deadly disease will die within 3 months, and 93% will die within 5 years. These are extremely low survival rates, largely exist due to late-stage diagnosis and limited access to robust diagnostics and treatment resources. That is why I reiterate again the common symptoms for anyone listening. These are the whites of your eyes or your skin turning yellow, itchy skin, darker pee, paler poo than usual, loss of appetite or losing weight without trying to, and feeling tired or having no energy, a high temperature or feeling hot or shivery. Presiding Officer, it is so vital that we push for long-term investment for research to ensure we can beat low survival rates. Currently, pancreatic cancer only receives 3% of UK research funding, with more investment and time needed to ensure we can identify people with pancreatic cancer faster. We can all agree more has to be done, as this remains one of the deadliest forms of cancer. But despite these challenges, there have been advancements that have been made, and according to the Less Survivable Cancers Task Force, Scotland is starting to lead the way for less survivable cancers by identifying these cancers as a strategic priority in the 10-year cancer strategy. If we can translate this into action, resulting in earlier and faster diagnosis, I hope we will see significant improvements. I also welcome the Scottish Government's providing funding from April 22 to March 2024 for the Pancreatic Cancer and Hepatocellular Carcinoma Pathway Improvement Project. According to Pancreatic Cancer Action, the data for this has been encouraging, with improvements demonstrated. So where do we go from here? Given that time really is of the essence for this cruel and devastating disease, it is crucial that we support and get input from those with lived experience and expertise. As stated by the Pancreatic Cancer Action, it is essential that the historical work and learnings from developing and delivering the pancreatic cancer hepatocellular carcinoma pathway and the Scott HBB service are incorporated and built on as fast as possible. We must ensure that we focus on the next steps and urgently consider how the benefits demonstrated through this can be delivered as a priority. On a final point, Presiding Officer, I want to pay tribute to my constituents who have sadly lost their lives because of pancreatic cancer. Helen, Donald, Billy and Christine will be forever missed by family, friends and loved ones, but they will never be forgotten, and so will many others too. We must work together in their memory and do everything that we can to raise awareness of this disease and save lives. Thank you again to Claire Adamson for bringing this forward.
Thank you, Ms McNair. And I call Finlay Carson to be followed by Willie Coffey. Around 4 minutes, Mr Carson.
Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer. And I'm also grateful for Claire Adamson for securing this important debate today, making World Pancreatic Cancer Day and ahead of Pancreatic Awareness Month. It's not the first time I've spoken on this subject in the Chamber, and as Deputy Convener of the Cross-Party Group on Brain Tumours and a member of the Cross-Party Group on Cancer, I've always maintained that raising awareness of all cancers is vitally important, and something as MSPs we're privileged to have the opportunity, but we also have the duty to raise awareness. At this point in the debate, there's always going to be a repetition of statistics, but I make no apology because it's so important. Pancreatic cancer is one of the 6 less survivable cancers, known as the silent killer, because of its early symptoms are so difficult to spot. The grim reality is that only 1 in 4 people diagnosed survives more than a year. In Scotland, survival rates remain among the worst in Europe, 35th out of 36 comparable countries, and that is unacceptable. Around 900 people are diagnosed in Scotland each year, and more than 10,500 across the UK. Tragically, half of those diagnosed in Scotland will die within 3 months, and 93% within 5 years. With incidence rising, pancreatic cancer deaths could soon overtake breast cancer. And one of the major areas of concern is improving pathways for people with pancreatic and liver cancer. Scotland has been leading the way through the pancreatic and here's where I get tongue-tied, hepatocellular carcinoma pathway improvement project. It's been peer-reviewed and published in the European Journal of Surgical Oncology. That project delivered statistically significant improvements across all 7 key performance indicators for pancreatic cancer, reducing staging times and improving communication. It proved that expedited diagnostic pathways save lives. But that service was closed twice. Now, we can't afford to lose momentum. The Scottish Government must act faster, building on what's worked and not starting from scratch. Late diagnosis remains a critical factor influencing outcomes. What we need now is urgent action. That's earlier and faster diagnosis, quicker pathways and greater investment in research. Lives depend on it. There is some hope. Scotland is working on a national optimal diagnostic pathway for HPB cancers, but time is of the essence. Pancreatic cancer is different. It moves fast, and every delay costs lives. Previously, I raised a major problem in Dumfries and Galloway, and that was the lack of hospice care. With around 1,200 new cancer diagnoses in D&G each year, the need for accessible, compassionate support has never been greater. That's why I supported efforts to establish a Maggie Centre in the town, the hometown of the charity's founder, Maggie Keswick-Jenks. Earlier this year, I was delighted to hear the announcement that a new cancer support centre will be housed locally, and that's a giant step forward, because this Maggie Centre and them across the country are renowned for their holistic approach to cancer care, and having one in Dumfries will make a profound difference to those living locally. Returning to pancreatic cancer, the Less Survivable Cancer Task Force recommends that the Scottish HPB Cancer Service should become a national initiative, not a regional model, and I fully support that, as I did last year. As I stated in my rural healthcare debate yesterday, equity is essential in healthcare. In this instance, equity of access is the key, ensuring uniform care across all regions, including Dumfries and Galloway. And education must be one of the most powerful weapons. Raising awareness is critical, not just for early detection, but for improving patient experience and outcomes. The symptoms we've heard, and I'll repeat them again: yellowing of skin of the eyes, darker urine, paler stools, itchy skin, loss of appetite or unexplained weight loss. Other signs: fatigue, lack of energy and a high temperature or feeling hot and shivery. Regrettably, our understanding of the disease is limited, but we do know that smoking, obesity and family history increases risks. Presiding Officer, many of us have lost family and friends to pancreatic cancer, and today, on Pancreatic Day, I will take the opportunity once again to remember my pals, Mark Cagle and Peter Murray-Usher. And this is the most difficult part of any speech, not about stats. They were taken far too young. And the man that was my mentor, a dear friend, and the person ultimately responsible for me being here in this place today, the former PO of the Scottish Parliament, Sir Alec Ferguson, who died of cancer only a few months after retiring. Presiding Officer, this is Scotland's deadliest common cancer. We cannot accept the status quo. We must act urgently, collectively and decisively. Lives depend on it.
Thank you, Mr Carson. We now come to the final speaker in the open debate, Willie Coffey, around 4 minutes.
Thanks very much, Presiding Officer, and of course thank you to my colleague Claire Adamson for once again raising awareness of pancreatic cancer in the Scottish Parliament. It's a debate I've tried to participate in each year. I've been a member of the Parliament, and also in memory of my mother, who died from this disease in 1985, some 40 years ago, at the age of only 52. And while it remains one of the most stubborn cancers, progress is being made, with the emphasis on early detection of the vague symptoms that it presents. It will also be the last time for me making such a contribution, but I'll be looking in next year to hear the debate and to continue my support for the work being done to battle this cancer. I'm grateful, of course, to Pancreatic Cancer UK for their brief on the issue, and amongst the stats and information they provided, one of them stood out for me, that 80% of people with pancreatic cancer are diagnosed too late, and some of the members have mentioned that already. That frightening statistic will hopefully alert the public to take seriously some of these vague symptoms that can appear. Early detection and diagnosis holds the key to more treatment options, leading to better survival rates. Now, Claire Adamson and other members have described these vague symptoms, and we need to repeat them, Presiding Officer. And it's always worth doing that. The unexplained weight loss, indigestion, stomach and back pain, new onset diabetes even, and yellowing of the skin have always been mentioned by members, but we have to get that message through to the public. Folk should visit their GP to begin the process of being checked out if they experience these symptoms. Interestingly, Presiding Officer, around 1 in 5 people over the age of 60, like me, will already have a pancreatic cyst, but only a small percentage of those will develop into pancreatic cancer. Now, a wee brief look at some of the research going on at Glasgow University. They're working to help identify the features of these higher risk cysts to help doctors make those important treatment decisions. At Liverpool University, a test has been developed to identify type 3C diabetes, which may also be an early indicator and early warning sign. Imperial College in London, a world-first breath test mentioned by Claire Adamson has also been developed, and this would directly allow GPs to perform the test and make further referrals if need be. And at the University of Essex, a new blood test has been developed, which can also help us with early detection. These are just a few examples of the fantastic work that is going on, and that will hopefully make a real difference to survival rates from the cancer. Family inheritance also plays a part. We hear with 1 in 10 cases being connected with inheritance, and there's even more work being done on that through the family history checker. How I wish some of this work was funded to be done those 40 years ago. And so to some asks of the Government, Presiding Officer, basically to offer more support for diagnostic capacity across Scotland. If we are alerting the public to these issues and the conditions that may be a cause for concern, then we need to provide people with easy and localised access to get the help they might need. A centralised service to help coordinate the family inheritance effort and to identify high-risk individuals across multiple cancer types will help too. Perhaps also in this day and age, Presiding Officer, a wee bit more help from AI with the analytics and data analysis that's making great strides in medical science elsewhere. And I do know that both Strathclyde and Glasgow University are deploying AI techniques in the research, and good luck to them with this work. Now, I wish all of those engaged in the research the very best of luck, and for the Scottish Government to help as best we can to support the research that might help us to begin to win this battle against pancreatic cancer. And lastly, of course, thank you to my colleague Claire Adamson for once again bringing this issue to the attention of the Scottish people through their Parliament. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Coffey. I now invite Jenny Minto to respond to the debate. Minister, around 7 minutes, please.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Firstly, I would like to thank my colleague Claire Adamson for bringing this motion to the Chamber today and reminding us of the impact that pancreatic cancer can have. As a backbencher, I took part in these debates as well because I recognise the importance of raising awareness. I'd also like to thank Pancreatic Cancer Action, Pancreatic Cancer UK and others for their continued efforts in both raising awareness of pancreatic cancer and supporting people and their loved ones who are facing this diagnosis. And I too would like to welcome them to the Scottish Parliament today. I'd also like to thank my colleagues here. Thank you for sharing such valuable contributions to the debate. I too, like Jamie Hepburn and others, have been contacted by my own constituents in Argyll and Bute, and I've excuse me, and I have heard from families who are grieving the loss of a loved one through pancreatic cancer. I thank them for their courage in sharing their stories with the heartfelt aim to improve knowledge and awareness. Pancreatic Cancer Awareness Month comes as a stark reminder to us all of the dreadful impact that a diagnosis of pancreatic cancer can have. The outcomes are typically poor, and we must significantly improve this at pace. I'd like to thank Marie McNair and Finlay Carson for describing the symptoms so clearly in their contributions, and also to Willie Coffey and Finlay Carson, who are both absolutely right. As MSPs, we are privileged to help raise this awareness. Published in 2023, Scottish Government's ambitious 10-year cancer strategy makes clear our determination to improve cancer survival rates. Our earlier cancer diagnosis vision underpins our investment in a range of programmes aimed at supporting early diagnosis, which will help us improve survival, including publishing the refreshed Scottish Referral Guidelines for Suspected Cancer, which support primary care clinicians in recognising symptoms that may indicate cancer, including pancreatic. These include criteria for non-specific symptoms for the first time. This is especially important for pancreatic cancer, where early signs can be subtle and easily missed. And as Jamie Hepburn has noted, we launched Scotland's 6th Rapid Cancer Diagnosis Service this year, and these services are diagnosing cancer faster for those with non-specific symptoms. And an independent evaluation by Strathclyde University found that hepatopancreobiliary, it's my turn to get it wrong, I'll just go HPB, thank you, cancers made up 17% of the cancers found. I note the valuable work of all involved in pilot projects to speed up the time for referral to diagnosis and treatment for patients with HPV cancers. They have a key role in making it very clear that we must do more for patients with pancreatic cancer across the whole cancer care pathway and not just part of it. As Carol Mochan noted, it's collaboration that is so important. And this is why we commissioned the Scottish HPV Network to take forward this consensus to develop national recommended pathways for HPV cancers. The SHPBN has started to develop the clinical management pathway for these cancers, which will promote equitable routes to cancer care across Scotland with patients at the centre. They have also provided their clinical consensus at what optimal diagnosis for patients should look like to the Centre for Sustainable Delivery for use in their development of the upper GI optimal diagnostic pathway, which will include HPV cancers. These both will be delivered in 2026. A pancreatic cancer diagnosis, as others have said, is devastating on those diagnosed and on their loved ones. The importance of person-centred care cannot be stressed enough to ensure that all patients get access to support throughout their cancer journey and that their voices and needs are heard. The Scottish Government continues to support and invest in our single point of contact pilots. These aim to ensure that all patients have a point of contact to support them in navigating their cancer care, improving shared decision-making between the individual and their clinical teams, and access to timely reporting of results. The single point of contact pilots have been found to have had over 30,000 patient interactions and freeing up over 3,970 hours of clinical nurse specialist time and improving experiences. We are actively considering how we best scale up this approach to benefit all patients with cancer in Scotland. The Scottish Government is also working in partnership with Macmillan Cancer Support to improve the service we offer patients with cancer through the Transforming Cancer Care programme. This partnership is worth £27 million and is the first of its kind in the UK. And from April 2024 to March 2025, over 6,000 people across Scotland were supported through the programme by a specialist key worker who signposted them to emotional, financial and practical support. And this includes considering local community assets and support services available. And I recognise the points that Carol Mochan make about inequalities, and I believe this service goes some way to support or alleviate them. We've also taken important steps to improve care for people at every stage of their journey. We published the Palliative Care Matters for All strategy this autumn, alongside refreshed national guidelines and new training resources to support those delivering care. And I too would like to reflect on the positive news that Finlay Carson mentioned regarding the Maggie's Centre in Dumfries and Galloway. They do make a profound difference to those living with cancer and their families. We are also working to strengthen bereavement support where required and ensure that spiritual care is not just available but truly embedded in everyday practice. Finally, I know that investment into our understanding of pancreatic cancer is key to being able to prevent, identify and treat it. Our strategy makes clear the importance of research to our strategic aim of improving cancer survivability and providing excellent, equitably accessible care to patients in Scotland. The Chief Scientist Office within the Scottish Government directly funds research projects and fellowships. Last year, we committed over £620,000 to fund 2 research projects at the University of Glasgow. The first is looking at cells in precancerous lesions, which are at high risk of progressing to pancreatic cancer. The second is looking at how cancer and immune cells interact that can affect responses to initial chemotherapy. And our Chief Scientist Office will continue to work with the University of Glasgow as this research progresses. Presiding Officer, in closing, I would like to make clear the Scottish Government's enduring commitment to improving pancreatic cancer outcomes and supporting the importance of raising awareness. In doing so, we can improve early diagnosis rates as well as improve patient experience and overall outcomes. I look forward to seeing flashes of purple in support of Pancreatic Cancer Awareness Month, and this includes lighting up Scottish Government's St Andrew's House in Victoria Quay tomorrow. I again thank everyone for their contributions today, and especially the charities that are here. And I hope that we can move to improve outcomes for patients with pancreatic cancer. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. That concludes the debate, and I suspend this meeting of Parliament until 2 p.m.